myself yet. Okay. There, they got me. We're good. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome back. And you all can hear the translation in here? One sec. We have a group of people here. Oh wait, that doesn't work. That's not the same damn camera. Epic fail. Let me spotlight myself. Okay, so that's everybody here. Yeah. So we're here in Kochi, Japan, and we're doing a course on the Song of My Spiritual Life, catching up with all of those courses that, a lot of people here weren't able to attend the live ones. And so we're going through them class by class. And translation okay? Okay. So normally we have a translator here, but we decided to put them on live voice for today. So officially, after today's class, we will be halfway done. Right? We'll be halfway done with this completion karma course. And for me, it's been really special to, just to go through all the material again. For many of you, this is the first time doing your review. But for me, it's like, this feeling of, it's like, when you go home and like mom makes you like your favorite meal, if your mom's still around, that feeling when you come home and you're just like, oh, like this is my comfort food. Right. And I spent the last couple of days in between the other classes preparing this one. And there's something for me that's actually very comfortable about ACI 8, which is what we'll be discussing today. It's a course that comes after we take the Bodhisattva vows, which, surprise, we took the vows at the end of last class, right? And then I asked the question, why? Like the next course after we take the Bodhisattva vows is death in the realms of existence. Okay. And it's all about the different kinds of beings there are in the world, who they are, what do they look like, what do they wear, what kinds of sufferings do they have. And one of the cool things that starts happening when you, as I said, when you feel like you're coming home, is that the teachings all seem to begin to interweave with each other. Like in this way that what we've been talking about for the last 5 days here in Kochi is very similar to what we're talking about tonight. Because what we're really talking about is, now that you have reviewed the Bodhisattva vows, okay? And for those of you that were here, we actually did Bodhisattva vows last year in Tokushima. So like the last year's program with the students that are here, we did Bodhisattva vows. So it's kind of appropriate that we're talking about it again. But the question becomes like, why after? And these are things you need to ask yourself. Like, why after we learn Bodhisattva vows, does Geshe Michael create a course called Death in the Realms of Existence? And when you look at it on paper, it's really a simple course. I mean, it's not like we get into the depths of emptiness here. We're not talking about the depths of karma. We don't really have to like squeeze our brain muscles too much. It's a very descriptive course. It actually, most of it comes from the Abhidharma Kosha. And I wondered for years, like why, what's the flow? Like what happens now? And I think as we're doing reviews like this, like why, you always should be asking why. Like, why am I hearing this teaching right now? All of you that are here, we're doing Song of My Spiritual Life. Why are you hearing this teaching tonight? Like, why are you here and listening to a whole class on all the different kinds of places that beings live and all the different types of beings there are? And we've been talking about like a preparation for Diamond Way, the preparation for the transmission that's happening in October. And a lot of what we've been emphasizing here, which is what we're starting to emphasize because you're ending your first major cycle, you online are ending your major cycle of ACI teachings, like the 18 courses. Ooh, you get your trophy, Maria. Here's your trophy. You finished the 18 courses, right? You got all 18 certificates, right? It's a big accomplishment. And it's not something for people to, it's not something to not recognize. But as there's a completion happening, as we're doing this completion karma, there is an element of like, how are we then shifting ourselves? How are we shifting our practice? How are we shifting our mindset? Because the foundation that everyone's gotten in these 18 courses becomes the launch pad that you don't ever lose. In fact, you keep coming back to over and over again, especially when you having difficulties. But it becomes that foundation that then propels you into what we're calling Diamond Way, what we're going to be starting in October. And so I said this in the last class last month before we announced everything, but I'm going to now give you a little bit more background and sort of what I would say my expectations are and my plan, right? Because originally doing these courses was a preparation for then entering next year into the Diamond Way, right? We would finish course 18. Yay, we get our trophies. We all celebrate. We do a big rejoicing. And then immediately we start in Delam, the path to bliss, a Lam Rim. And then we start moving through those other 18 courses. That was the plan. And now the plan is something else. And it's one of the things that you're going to have to get used to if you have a teacher who's taking you through Diamond Way, is that your plans are never going to be their plans. Meaning you thought you knew what it was going to be like, and they're going to completely just pull that rug out and go, guess what? Now it's something else. And then you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice of, are you going to hold on to your little view of what you thought things were? Right? Or are you going to step into what your potential actually is. And that's where the tension and then the growth with any teacher happens, right? Is that you thought it was going to be one way and now it's going to be a different way. And Luis is like, I know, Tim, right? You know, you thought it was going to be one, you thought you had a plan, you had it under control, and I think that's for me, that's the place to really if investigate ourselves is what things did we think we had under control that we never had control of in the first place. You know, you don't have control of your body. You think you do, right? Raise your arm. I can raise my arm. I can raise my other arm. I can move this face, right? But then all of a sudden, you're like, I don't really feel well. And you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, yeah, by the way, you have cancer, right? Oops, you didn't have control of that. This afternoon, I got the worst migraine I've had in like years. No control of that, right? You know, like I felt terrible. Like my face was pounding, like everything was, maybe it was a purification. I don't know, but I had no control. Starting to feel a little bit better now. So here's, and so this is really, this is where this is the direction we're moving in, is we thought that next year we were going to start Dalam. That's what we thought, and I was so excited. I'm like, I got permission from my teacher, like we're going to go ahead and do this. That's all that was everything we got. And then all of a sudden, Geshe Michael's like, yeah, we're going to do something really different. My teacher is going to do something entirely different. And he presented this, I don't know, a couple months ago. And we actually talked about the presentation last night here. Was it last night? I don't know. Yeah, we talked about it last night in the Q&A, I think, or the class before. That he's considering how to present the entire path in a way that can reach billions of people. When you look at the original 18 advanced ACI courses, right? Which everyone's like, I have to do my 18 courses, got to get them done, got to get my trophy. Right? And yes, you should get them done and you should rejoice and you should be super happy. One of the students confessed to me last night that she didn't do her homework. I was like, thank you. And I gave her a high five and I said, keep going. Right. How many people have, how many people have those courses reached? Those original advanced 18 courses since, 2010, something like that. I don't know. There's some finite number. And so, but not that many people, less than 1,000. Okay. And so when we think about it, we can think about it in two ways. The vision that my teacher has is to present the same ideas in the same path in a way that can reach billions of people. So you could take the point of view. Okay, here's one point of view. You could take the point of view of the first path wasn't successful. The first Diamond Way series wasn't successful. Okay. You know, it's like version 1 of your new app. You know, you send out version 1, it does all the things. It has some bugs in it. Right. And then you put out version 2, right? Is that what happened? You know, or maybe something cooler happened. Maybe all of the seeds shifted such that these ideas are now ready to reach 1.5 billion people. The karma shifted. Do you think that you're the only one who's going to study Diamond Way while the rest of the billions of people on this planet don't? I had this discussion with one of my friends. There was a particularly difficult person in our group who did some pretty bad things. You know, it was part of our original, you know, the group that I originally received empowerment with. And my friend was very upset, I know, about what this person had done. And rightfully so. There was some bad, you know, it was pretty nasty stuff. You know, and then I sat there and I thought about it for a while, and you know, of course, you know, I was supportive of, you know, their pain that they were experiencing. You know, and then when they were ready, right? Because you don't throw seeds in people's face when they're having pain, right? You guys all know this. I say this all the time. Like someone's having a mental affliction, don't be like, I wonder where that's coming from. Like, you know, give them a hug, hang out with them, support them, and then slowly when they're ready, right? But I said, do you think that that person's not going to be part of your enlightened paradise? Do you think we're going to leave them behind just because they did something that, you know, hurt somebody else? Have you ever hurt anybody else? Billions of lifetimes in the past, and this relates to ACI 8. Did you ever hurt anybody? Probably. You know, you're not separate from that. Like you're not separate from that person who today hurt someone. You did that too. You've done that before. Maybe smaller ways in this life, you know, count all the other lives, you know, you're done. Like you know, yeah, we did that too. Like don't think that you're some goody two shoes. Like translators, good luck with that. You know, that you're like an all like I am so much better than everyone else because I keep my vows perfectly. No, shut up. Like, yeah, you're doing a good job today, you know. But the thing is, you know, did you think that those people weren't going to come with you? That's my point. Of course they're going to come with you. You know, so if we have an opportunity to reach 1.5 billion people, 2 billion people, why wouldn't we do it? Right? So what I'm saying for now is because I asked Geshe Michael this question. I asked my teacher, I said, you know, how should I move forward? You know, how should I guide, you know, And not, of course, everyone who's taking this course is not necessarily, you can be here and not be, a student of mine. That's not what we're saying, right? Anyone can attend the classes. But if you were thinking of, if you feel that relationship here, right? And I know some of you have expressed that. What should we do, Geshe-la? You're my teacher. Tell me what to do, right? Give me the guidance. Because this whole thing that he's been doing has been, I feel like he's returning us all, returning me to a place of being a student. Like, go be a student again, Tim. And I was talking to my friend Brian last night about this, that like, when I was first a student, I was so alive and burning with like creativity and innovation, and I had all of this energy, and like this joy was coming out, and I realized that I lost some of it. It was habitual, right? It wasn't as like exciting. And I wanted to get back to it. I wanted to get back to that excitement, and so I asked him, I said, well, what should I do? Of course, he didn't give an answer. That's not how teachers work, by the way, because teachers are not parents. Teachers are guides. They give you the tools for you to figure it out on your own. Like, they're not going to walk with you side by side. They're going to take you, and then, like when you have a little kid on a bicycle, right? And you hold the back of the seat and you run with them, right? And then you let go of the seat and the kid keeps going, right? That's what a teacher does. They push you on, right? And then, of course, the first time you realize the teacher's not holding on to the seat, you look back, then you get scared and you freak out and you fall off the bike, right? Every kid does it. In my version, I ran into a tree. When I looked back and my dad wasn't holding on to the seat anymore, I was like, ah! And I ran into a tree and fell over and cried, right? It was funny. I mean, it wasn't funny at the time. But, the impression that I got is that if you, Tim, have the opportunity to study with somebody who has lived those teachings, and also if you see that person as I see them and the realizations that they have, why would you, like, that's the most powerful and quick way to do it. Of course, that's your relationship with your teacher, right? Like, and so when I started thinking about all the stories about when Geshe Michael started teaching and Ken Rinpoche was offering Diamond Way empowerments, one of my good friends first got empowered by Ken Rinpoche, even though he wanted it from Geshe Michael. And Geshe Michael's like, no, go to him, go to him, go to him, go to my teacher. So that's what we're doing. Okay. You thought it might be one way. For now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to what my teacher's offering for now, right? And so what does that mean is that in October, there will be a live transmission from Rimrock, Arizona. And then there will be an explosion of branch events all around the world, because unfortunately Dragon's Head only holds 130 people. And we're going to have a huge worldwide celebration called Let's Get a Live Transmission from Geshe Michael. And so if you haven't signed up for it yet, Anastasia, please put it in the chat. Please make a request to do so, and we're going to figure out how to get everybody there. Okay. If you haven't taken the courses yet, we'll figure it out, you know. But that's what we're going to do. Okay. You can't come to you know, only 130 people can come to Dragon's Head. I am so sorry. I wish I've pushed for a circus tent. I wanted 2,000 people. I was, you know, but the request is still available. Yes. You know, it was due on June 15th, but don't worry. You know, we have 2,900 so far. Okay. 29, I don't know where all these people came from, you know, but I think it's amazing, you know, 3,000 people listening and getting the permission to practice, right? You know, and then don't worry about whether you had an idea of how Diamond Wave was going to be or what you were going to study. This is what we're doing, right? People ask these questions like, well, should I do Yamantaka, or should I do Vajrayogini, or should I do Tara, or should I do, I don't know, keep listing them. Which one should I do? There's so many of them, right? The answer is, if you have a teacher, you do what your teacher gives you. You don't have to make that choice. Okay. You know, and if you see me in that way, this is my instruction is October. Okay. You thought you were going to get empowered next year after we did Dalam. It might be like 2 years from now. Guess what? Acceleration. It's moved faster than you thought. Marina, it's moved faster than you thought. October. Go to October. Okay. Like that's my answer, you know. And if you have another personal teacher, talk to your personal teacher, you know, because of course everybody here, like, this is just a completion karma course, but it's also designed specifically for the direction that we're taking, you know, that I'm kind of pushing people, you know, along. But really what's happening, my teacher's doing this, and that's what we're doing. So much easier. Makes my life so much easier. I don't have to make a decision. You see, I don't have to make a decision anymore. The seeds ripened where I didn't have to make a choice. Brian, we froze. No, none over there? Okay. Okay. Sorry. This is a different computer. All right. So that's my little opening speech for all of you. Okay. So and then the idea that I think is going to happen is that following the teachings with him is that we'll then have ways to explore those teachings together, because, Geshe-la will not be available for personal advices. 3,000 students at the live transmission, come on, like, so that's how I see it going right now. But don't worry, it'll change in a year anyway. So just get used to change. All right. Just get used to it, Maria. It's going to keep changing, and enjoy it. And someone asked in the chat, what was Geshe-la's advice? You're not, Marina, I'm going to tell you this in front of all 200 people here, because you won't listen otherwise. You're not waiting for anything. You're going in October. There's nothing to wait for. Like, Squeeze those thoughts out of your head like this. Okay. That's what we're doing. It's coming through Geshe Michael. All right. That's what we're doing. And that's what, and I think it's going to be incredibly beautiful. And to answer your question about like, how do you get the excitement back? Honestly, I think it's a seed, first of all. But I think if you feel like your passion has been waning a bit about something, like obviously a 4-step plan of helping other people with their passion is probably a first place to start. But I think it comes down to like this question of joyful effort. Like the theme that we've had here all week is about, a lot of it is just let it go. Like don't hold on to your negative emotions. Like there's something that we as humans feel attracted to, that when something happens, we have to like process it and hold on and like understand it completely. And there is but there is a way to complete the experience and let it go at the same time. Because really, this moves us into ACI 8 now, is we just don't have time. Like, I've been sitting here with my friends this week and realizing like time is going by so fast. Like we don't have time. Like, wow, that's nice. You're gonna get a heart for that one. Like I'm almost 50 years old and I don't feel it, but where did all the years go? Like, oh my God, like if it went that fast, all of a sudden I'm gonna blink and I'm gonna be 60 and then I'll be 70 if I make it that far. Right? We don't have time, right? And so ACI 8, if we look at the whole flow, like why does ACI 8 come after taking the Bodhisattva vows? And I really think it's a motivation course. It's a big exposition of the entire existing universe, all the different realms of being. And then we say, here's what the whole universe looks like. Where do you want to be in that universe? Where did you come from and where are you going? Like, where are you going next? Because very quickly, your 50 years will turn into 75 years, and then it'll turn into 95 if you make it that long. Right? And of course, as you get older, time goes by faster, just because you experience it that way. Percentage wise, every year feels like when you're 1 year old, 1 year is 100% of your life. When you're 50 years old, 1 year is only 1/50th of your life, right? Time, the perspective shifts. But where do you want to go next? That's the question. Like, if you don't get out in this lifetime, and quite frankly, if you are who you look like you are, right? We've done this before and we'll do it again. Right? It's like, you had the great fortune of being born as a human. What's going to happen next? Are you going to stay this way? Or are you going to jump down to some other realm? and then forget about all of these things, and then wait around for another billion lifetimes when you accidentally become a human again, right? You know, and if we didn't get out the first time, or the second time, or the third time, or the billionth time we tried, and I'm sure we were all Diamond Way practitioners in the past, and we probably were all practicing together before, which is why we're here together today, right? But guess what? We didn't do it. Like, and you should laugh. It's funny. We didn't get it done the first time, so I guess we'll do it again the next time, right? But the thing is, like, this whole class is about what's coming up next. What's on the other side of that door, and it's rushing towards you faster than you can even imagine. Okay. You know, so as I said, we're studying not that. Sorry. Wrong notes. Sorry, we're not, it's the wrong class. There we go, right class. Slide 1, Brian. We are studying the Abhidharma Kosha once again. Next slide. Next one. Yes. Real slide 1, which is what I meant to say. Slide 3, right? We're studying the Abhidharma Kosha. So, right? This is the full name of the course. Chanumpa Se. And oftentimes you hear it just referred to in the monasteries as Se. What are you studying today, Brian? Se. And it was written by Master Vasubandhu in about 350 AD. Right around the same time as another famous character, his half-brother, Arya Sangha. Okay. Did we make sure that they get the live voice too? Okay, thank you. And for everybody here, just so you know, we've been up since 6 o'clock. If you get tired, you need to get up and move around, just go up. You can also, if you need to go to bed, you can go to bed too. Like, no, there's no shame in that. These were extra classes that I added in, by the way, for everyone online. Okay. And so in this text, the Abhidharma gives us an outline of all existing things. Okay. And so one of the things that it talks a lot about is like the desire realm, right? Which is where we are right now. What are all the levels? Where are all the places? If you were a travel agent and you were trying to sell the desire realm, okay, to all of your clients, all right, what would be in all of those? What would be all of the options that you would give them in the brochure? They don't make brochures anymore. Everything is online. But, you know, in your Instagram reel, what would it be? All 6 of those things, right? So, slide 6, Brian. So this first one, the first one is the first selling point of the desire realm is the 8 hot hells. Okay. There's 8 different levels of hell that you can find yourself in. All right. And I'll tell you about them a little bit later. You know, so there's 8 different hell realms that you can go to. All right. Next slide. You could be a craving spirit. All right. This is a kind of being who has the fortune that every time that they want to eat food, their mouth might be really tiny, but their stomach is really big. or that when they eat food, it like burns them, or there's all different kinds of craving spirits, right? But basically, we'll talk about how to get there in a second. But that's your second place you can go. That one's awesome. Those ones tend to happen, like especially if you're really attached to a place or a person, right? It's a delightful existence. Okay, it's a little bit more delightful than the eight hot hell realms, but it's definitely, it's an improvement. Okay. All right. What's next? Oh, super cute. The animal realm, right? You could go there. You could be a cute little squirrel. You could be a cat. You could be a dog. You could be an insect, like an upgrade from the craving spirits, right? These are all the different. So well, I'll tell you that in a second. All right, next upgrade. This is like economy class to like no class. Okay. The next one is, oh, humans. You know, you can upgrade to a human. All right. There's four types of those, but you can upgrade to that. And then the next final upgrade in the desire realm are the six types of pleasure beings. Okay, we're not going to go into all of them. It's not important. It's more like it's like a semi-god, godlike realm, not in the sense of like, like a Christian god or something like that. It's like Marvel superheroes and, you know, things are extraordinarily comfortable. There also is lots of jealousy up there as well, right? These are all the different places, mainly all the different places that you could go, right? Based on what karma ripens at the time of your death. Like in the moment of your death, as you withdraw, as all the prana withdraws, and you're dissolving into emptiness. Okay, your awareness is dissolving into emptiness. The physical elements dissolve. Everything, you know, it and it happens so fast and mostly without awareness that you never really see it happening anyway. And then once that dissolution happens, then like a whole new series of karmas pop out and then throw your next world. And then according to the Abhidharma, up until 49 days, if you think about it, it's probably more instantaneous than that. But 49 days is a nice thing to do. Very nice for ceremonies too, and to think about our loved ones. The next world gets thrown. And so as your Dharma travel agent, okay, I'm going to sell to you where you're going to go next, right? You see, like what's going to happen next? What have you done now to prepare so that when that moment comes, which we don't know when it's going to come, you know, the first time I remember someone dying, one of my schoolmates' little brother died. He was 6 years old. His name was Greg. A happy kid, you know, 6 years old. He was done, right? And I remember like it really, really affected her. I don't think she ever got over that. And she never was able to return back to a normal self. and she had this karma that like the people close to her kept dying. Her best friend died. I remember it was in her early 20s. She was a schoolmate of mine too, and she died right after childbirth, right? Like, then, my grandmother died in an emergency surgery. She was 60 some years old, right? There's no plan, right? We all think that we're going to make it. Like we're going to be the one who makes it long. It's going to be a long time, right? I have all this time to do this. I have all of this. Yes, Sandra, we can talk about that later. But we don't know. Like, I was thinking this afternoon when I had that huge migraine, which is probably just a purification that prevented me from having cancer, in 10 years or something. But I was thinking, like it was like pounding on the side of my head, and I was like, what if I'm having a stroke, right? Like, what if this isn't a migraine? What if it's just like this is the end? And like this was during Brian's class this afternoon, and I'm like, oh, well, what if this is the end? Like, they're all gonna find me laying here dead. And I was like, that's a weird thought to have. Like, I'm teaching this class tonight, right? Maybe that's why it happened, so I'd have that thought. Maybe that was the secret message. Brian was teaching Song of My Spiritual Life catch-up course this afternoon. You can find it sometime on the platform. Um, so where are we going next, right? So and what are we, and then so next slide, Brian. So the idea that in the desire realm, where we are, like we're motivated by two things. We're motivated by food, right? We're motivated by love in the form of, as this picture is showing you. Okay. Okay. So, we're motivated by these two things. You see, just satisfying our pleasure. Like, so we feel good, right? We just want to do things to feel good, right? But day in and day out, like every single day, I'm like, I need to eat my apples. Like I need to eat all my food, right? Like you have lunch and it was good, and then you need to have dinner, and then you need to have breakfast, right? Then we do all of these things, right? Right. And the pleasures come and go, like the happiness comes and goes, right? But we're constantly driven by this, right? We don't have control of it. We just want to feel good. We just want to feel happy, right? But we can't, but it doesn't ever stay. That's the problem. Like when something good happens, everybody celebrates. My team won the football match last week. And I said football because it's called football everywhere else, except in America and Japan. It's called soccer in the United States, and it's called saka in Japanese. Saka, yes. Everywhere else it's called football. So next slide, Brian. Okay, so how does this happen? Like, and this is, I think, one of the key points. All right. How do, like, where do all of these realms exist? Like, how do we get to all of these different kinds of um, places, right? You got your six hell realms, you got your craving spirits, you got your animals, you got your humans, you got your pleasure realm beings, right? So how do they really exist? Like in the Abhidharma, and this is what this presentation is from, right? Makes it sound like these truly exist, right? Like, and oftentimes we have this conception, okay, where are hell realms? They're down, right? Heaven is up, hell is down, right? You know, that's how the Christian cosmology seems to work. You know, if you dig into the earth, it gets hotter and hotter, right? It kind of makes sense, I guess. But when you look at it from a Madhyamika point of view, it's just what your seeds are putting together in any given moment that determines what kind of realm you live in. Okay. Meaning that all of those could be existing in this room depending on the karma that you have. Right? There could be craving spirits in here, right? We just can't see them. They're, you know, we're not experiencing a hell realm, but you know, just imagine. Oh, by the way, there's also 8 cold realms as well. So, you know, you can get cold or hot depending on your whatever particular karma you have. But it's really just the parts that are being put together by a group of karmic seeds that are ripening at the same time. You see, and there's certain patterns, and this is the coolest part about this course, and this is why I'm spending some time on it. Is that there's certain patterns that seem to take hold, right? Sure, there's infinite ways things could be, right? But it seems like there's certain patterns that come together. And so these patterns come out as the 8 hell realms, the craving spirits, the animals, right? And within animals, there's all these different kinds of animals, or, you know, all these different humans, you see. But there's certain patterns, but the patterns are not self-existent. Like this is where you have to kind of use your Madhyamika brain on this. You know, certain patterns and types tend to come together, but that doesn't mean they're self-existent, right? So in this world, right, all of these things could be happening right here in this room right now, which is what we talked about in all the classes here. Where is paradise? We didn't talk about enlightenment too much, but where is enlightenment? Is it at the top of the, you know, at the top of the clouds, right? Do you float away? Does the sky open up and a light beam comes down and then takes you away, right? And everyone goes, oh, look, another one goes to enlightenment, and everyone claps, right? You know, but it's not like that. Like your karma just shifts. You take the same parts, you put them together, and it's an enlightened paradise for you. And for someone sitting next to you, it's an entirely different realm, possibly a burning inferno. See? And so my sales pitch as your Dharma travel agent today is going to be, where do you want to go? how do you want your mind to put together the reality, put together the parts in your world such that you can have what you want? You know, do you want to be a craving spirits? Do you want to be a cute little furry kitty cat? You know, do you want to be a human? Do you want to do extraordinary things to serve all beings? You know, if you want to be any of those other ones, let me know. I can give you a good karmic path for that. I can write you a nice recipe. In fact, I probably wouldn't need to write a recipe because typically the problem, which I think is the next topic, not the next topic, but I'll say it anyway. The problem is that we have this we came into this life with an incredible amount of good karma just to be born as a human. But our negativities kind of sometimes will reassert themselves. And so what happens is the great fortune that we had to be this, to do this. I'm going to stop that sharing, Brian, just so I can, and I'll grab you in a second. You know, we have this tendency to then, those negativities have a tendency to reassert themselves, right? Because it's not like you became a human and then you purified all of it. You just had the good fortune that all those good seeds came together and then poof, you came out as a human. But then those negativities reassert themselves, and then we have to navigate that, right? And what happens is we blunder, right? We blunder the fortune that we had. You know, and that's why we're here, is to not blunder. Blunder, by the way, is a oftentimes used in chess when you screw up and you lose a good piece unintentionally. Like I blundered my queen. Right? Like it's like that in life. Like you blundered. I don't know how to say that in English, but or I mean I say it in your languages, but as you think you're making the good move, but you messed it up. And we all do this all the time. Our minds are just running, 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 running. So we have to figure out how to stop that. And that's why we did ACI 7, right? That's why we've done all of these things. Thank you, Brian. To now motivate us. Like, why did you learn 64 vows? What's going to motivate you? Well, what's going to happen next if you don't do those things? One of those wonderful destination vacations. Okay. I'm going to the beach next week. It is the monsoon season at that beach, and I didn't look it up before I went there. Oops. I blundered that vacation. Actually, not at all. I'm super excited. It's in a rainforest. It's not raining all day. I'm actually really excited about it before we go to Singapore and then our Malaysia event. So, but get that feeling like if you truly knew what was possible, you wouldn't be blundering day in and day out. You wouldn't not be practicing, right? But I'm here on retreat, leading this retreat, and I blundered this morning. I got up late. I didn't go to meditation, and then I had a headache and all these things, and I didn't do my meditation practice today. Really, Tim? Oh, too many important things to do, you know. Really? There was nothing. You really, you see, like, is future me going to be happy with myself because I didn't do the meditation today? Future me could be in a place where he can't even think about why the suffering is so intolerable, because the next world that could come out could be one of those hell realms, which we're going to learn about in a little bit. Okay. You see, so the whole point of this is a sales pitch of where are we going next? Where are you packing? What are you putting into your backpack? Okay. All right. So next slide, Brian. How do you get born into this realm? Okay. Here's a sales pitch. How are you going to become a craving spirit? All right. Let's see. Next slide. First step. There are three, okay, when you think about the 10 virtues or 10 non-virtues, depending how you angle it, there's three ways that you can break those or commit those deeds: in a lesser way, in a medium way, and then the worst way, I guess. Okay. The worst way, which is not this case, is gonna, which would be the big pig, right? Would be that you have so many afflictions that you're planning all the things you're going to do to hurt everybody. You're premeditating everything. I'm going to get back at that person who hurt me. Those are heavy deeds. Light deeds are kind of, just, you're sort of doing it, a lot of it's just kind of like incidental, like, you're just driving down the street and you didn't mean to kill all the bugs while you were driving, but you just kind of did. You didn't mean to step on that ant. You weren't trying to do it, you see. To become a craving spirit, you do it in a medium way, which is between incidental and premeditated. Okay. What does that mean exactly? I don't know. Go talk to a Buddha, right? The sales pitches just don't do those things. Then you don't have to worry about it. Next slide. The first cause, the specific cause of being born as a craving spirit is failing to do the three kinds of giving, right? So this little child is giving. But if you fail to give, so think about it, the idea of a craving spirit, a preta, is that they're possessive about something. They're really attached to their own things. Like, this is mine, right? Or like, I wish I had my ring on, right? It's like, Gollum in the Lord of the Rings, right? My precious. Like the whole thing about the Lord of the Rings is like this, like as soon as you touch this ring, you're like, oh, this is mine, right? And you're not giving it away. You can't even think about giving it away, right? And so like the kinds of giving here that we're talking about are mainly three things. One is giving material things when people need them. Okay. Like just flat out, you have something that could help someone, and you're like, that's mine. Did you really need it? Right. Now, this is not, in parentheses, this is not a justification for giving away everything you own because I said you're going to become a craving spirit. Okay. Not what I said. Right. Alfonso and I were talking the other day. The apartment that we're staying in here is beautifully minimalistic, simplistic, and that we're going to go home and get rid of half of our stuff because we don't need it. We have too much stuff. Now, the apartment doesn't have everything it needs, but it's pretty close. It has everything. Well, the best thing it has is it has a Japanese toilet. The most exquisite experience. Look, you spend enough time on that thing in your lifetime. You should take care of yourself and get yourself a Japanese toilet. Okay. Especially with the heated seat. No idea how awesome that is, right? It's anyway, the point is that if you have something and somebody needs it, why not help them? Why not give it to them? You can't take it with you anyway. When you die, you can't take that stuff with you. It's impossible. You know, if it's not going to cause an inconvenience for your family or hurt somebody, like get used to just giving things away. Like I just, the sad part about when you do this really well is that you can't stop the stuff from showing up in your life. I constantly have to kick stuff out of my house. It doesn't, I can't stop the karma from ripening. Right? So that's the first type of giving. The second type of giving is freedom from fear, like helping people understand everyone around us is actually afraid. We're just pretending not to be. Like we're afraid that we're not going to be good enough. We're afraid that we're not going to be meaningful enough. We're afraid that we're just not going to have, that we're going to die. Okay. And the third type of giving is giving the Dharma. Like for the love of seeds, don't get possessive about Dharma. Okay? If you have Dharma, give it away. Give it to someone. Teach someone. Don't be like, my realizations. If I don't teach this, right, then I'll be the superstar teacher that everyone will want to learn from. Like, I'm just rolling my eyes. Like, that's like that doesn't make any sense to begin with. But like, don't hold on. Help others, right? Next slide, Brian. And then, as I said, the second cause is cheapness, possessiveness. And this is from an English, like from an English story of this 18th century. It's called The Christmas Story. And this is Ebenezer Scrooge. And, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. His transformation from a cheapskate into a generous man on Christmas. And the way he becomes generous is basically the ghost of Christmas, past, present, and future, show him what his life will be like because he's so cheap, right? It's a Charles Dickens story. It's been made into many, many movies called The Christmas Story. Scrooge. If you've ever seen it. it called a Christmas Carol? I think it's called A Christmas Story. Maybe it's called A Christmas Carol. Yeah, you're right. It's called A Christmas Carol. Ha! You're right. It's called A Christmas Carol. Thank you. Apparently. Thank you. So that's another way to become a craving spirit, because you're just holding on to things. Third thing, last one, Brian. Jealousy. Being jealous of other people, right? The couple on the left, the guy's jealous of them being together, right? That's a way to turn yourself into a craving spirit very easily. For the love of seeds, be happy when people are in love. Okay. All right. What are the main causes to being born as a cat, as an animal? Okay. Next slide. The first thing is like doing the 10 bad deeds to a less serious extent. Just plain old forgetting. Okay. So the first specific causes, next slide, Brian. It's not that one, it's the first one. I'm sorry, we're too far ahead. I forgot to put a slide for that. Let's go back to the pigs. The specific cause is breaking minor rules of morality on a regular basis. Like just little lies, little stealing, little meaningless talk, right? You know, because in a lot of ways, animals are pretty close to humans, right? There's not that much difference in general, right? There are some key differences, of course, but there's a lot more closeness of a human and an animal than there is to a human and a craving spirit, for example. And then my favorite, like this next one is what I really enjoy as a, not enjoy, but like as a great cause. This is from a show called Suits. Okay, but that's not why this picture's here. Is that you fail to respect those who are worthy of respect. And so I just put these people in, nice clothes. You're supposed to respect like lawyers, right? They charge $500 an hour. Okay. So, Brian, now that we have a moment, we're going to skip to the last. Thank God she left. Okay. There's a, just want you all to see the picture. Your daughter left, and we'll take, yes. Okay. So there's a question here of how does one become a human? Okay. Okay, you can take it, just take it off, Brian. Thank you. So the way that I want everyone to remember that, and we'll come back to it later. Okay. So we're going to touch that at the very end of class. Like, how does one become a human? All right. How does one take birth in a human realm? We'll come back to that later, but remember that picture. All right. So the idea that if you don't respect people who are worthy of respect, that puts you into an animal realm. And I think that's a really cool thing to think about, right? Like, who are the people that are worthy of respect? I'm not talking about people in suits, of course. I don't know, your parents, for example, right? The ones who gave you life, your teachers, the ones who taught you the things you've learned, the things that you know. And how often do we not really respect those people that have given us life, that have given us knowledge, that have given us wisdom? And it's normal. Look, it's normal as a human to not respect, right? There's this kind of like independent thing that we do. And different cultures have different mores around it. I think Asian cultures have a much closer family responsibility than Western cultures do currently. But there's still like teenagers still resist their parents. Like there's still this like, I think I'm better than you because I'm a teenager now, right? We've all done it. You've all done it, right? And then you realize when you're 30 that your parents were right. Maybe you didn't realize till you were 40, you know. But that's part of the process. But really, not finding that respect turns, will then collect as a karma that when you are born, you could, those karmas could collect together and throw cat or throw fox or bird or ant, right? Depending on a whole bunch of other kinds of configurations and pieces, right? You know, if you were like independently disrespectful, you might be a cat. If you were like devotionally disrespectful, you might be a dog. I'm just thinking personalities. I'm just making things up, right? I don't know, right? So, these are things to think about because this is what's accumulating in your karmic bank account all the time, right? And then if you've like, if you've had a whole series of bad thoughts happening and then something terrible happens to you in the middle of those bad thoughts and you die in the middle of those bad thoughts because they're the closest to your death, those seeds may ripen and then throw you into that and into a world where that negativity is just a continuation of it, but in an explosively dramatic whole world kind of way. You know, Maria, what you said is like pretty cool. Like, everything else in this class is much more traumatizing than that picture. Right? Like that picture is actually lovable. There's love and there's connection, right? You know, there's a desire to make a baby. Like great. Like but think about like your negative thoughts could be creating cat, dog, craving spirit, hell realm. Like that's intense. Next slide, Brian. So there's in the human realms, there's 6 different kinds of main sufferings. All right. One is there is no certainty, right? We don't know what it's going to look like what's next. Your friend could become your enemy. There's stories in the sutras about your father becoming your son, right? there's no certainty. It's all dependent on your past karma. Like all of us, what relationships did we have before? You know, we could have been enemies before. We could have been friends before. We could have been partners before. We could have been, you know, we could have been at war with each other. You see, we don't know, right? There's no certainty in any of that. Next one. You know, we can't find any satisfaction, right? Even if you were to win the lottery would not make you happy. Sure, temporarily, you might be like, oh, I can finally pay my bills. You know, one of my friends called me yesterday or wrote to me yesterday and asked me, you know, how some of their clients who are very wealthy are lonely because their kids have left. And they don't, and was asking, well, how can I help them be less lonely? They have all the money in the world, but they're lonely, right? Money can't buy companionship, right? Like, so we never have a sense of satisfaction because even the good things make us want more. People who are rich want more money. They never have enough. Like Elon Musk, like what's this guy doing? What can you do with $1 trillion? Like, what's he holding on to all that for? Right? I don't know. You know, he's doing some cool things too, but I'm concerned. Next one, Brian. You know, we have to shed our bodies over and over again. You know, when we're younger, we don't think about this, but the older you get, the more closer you get to, I'm going to shed this body. Next one, Brian. And the opposite is, what's that? No. The next one's fine. We have to take birth over and over again, right? Birth is not a pleasant process, okay? Next one. Anytime you're in a high position, you will inevitably lose it, right? Anytime you succeed at something, you will inevitably, the seeds will wear out. You see. And then number 6, you know, we're ultimately doing this alone. We not only lose our friends, but we lose our body, the most intimate thing we have, we lose our own body. Right? And at the time of death, you are alone. There's no one who accompanies you across the transition, across the void. Right? Kind of depressing. Okay. So last topic. You can stop sharing the screen. Yeah. So the last topic is how does, you know, and I think this is really interesting, like how does, according to the Abhidharma, you know, how does a birth take place? Like how does the spirit, it's not even a spirit, but like how does the bardo being, like you've died or a being has died, and then you move into the next life. Okay. What does that look like? You can share it on there. Right. So there's 3 things that need to be in place. All right. One is, and this is kind of, I think it's kind of funny because it's almost like they didn't quite get it right. But it's like there has to be a mother who's capable of having a baby, right? And they say that she has to be menstruating, right? Which what it means is that she still is in the, she still has her menstrual cycles, meaning that the eggs are still coming out once a month, right? So there has to be someone who's able to have a baby, right? The second thing that needs to be there is that there has to be desire, right, between the two parents. Okay. And then when you look at the picture, which is online, right, is that the proximity of a being who lives on smells, which is called an intermediate being, a bardo being, right? So mom and dad are doing mom and dad things, right? And then the bardo being is nearby, okay, kind of floating around, right? And so what they say is that in that moment is that bardo being sees the parents, right? And sees the desire, right? And is attracted to it. Okay. And basically they have this feeling of like, oh, they can play along, they can just enjoy it, like, because they're not experiencing it the same way. They're just like, oh, this is a lot of fun, right? And then they enter into the womb and then get trapped there. It's like a one-way valve, like they go through, but they can't come back the other way. Okay. So like that's how the Abhidharma describes how a birth takes place, right? How the intermediate being goes, is like nearby and is attracted to their next mom and dad. And they're like, oh, these are cool people. And they start hanging around and then get sucked into the abdomen, right? And then poof, and then, then sometime later, baby comes out, right? Yes. At the break, at the break. Okay, not right now. Okay. So after break, hold on. So the thing that I just want to highlight here, before we take a break, is that you should leave this course feeling like, oh no. Okay. You should feel a little like, where am I going next? Like, and that's the whole point, is that if in the next class we're going to start describing some of the other places like the hell realms, and then we need to think about, how do we avoid that? Like, what can we do in our practice to keep those negative seeds from ripening, because we already have a karmic bank from lifetimes ago, and then the negativities that we put into play in this life, because death is not certain when it's going to come. In fact, I hope we all make it in the next half hour and come back. But there's no guarantee that we all will. But I really hope that each and every one of us can come back in the next 30 minutes, take a nice long break, and then we'll continue on with the rest of this course. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you in 30 minutes.